Bless you. Hall of Famer Rick Barry and myself are wishing you a happy Memorial Day weekend. Some sad news we're going to cover regarding a player who played alongside Rick in his era. And we're going to talk Warriors, of course, and the playoffs. Let's get into it. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can follow the Hall of Famer, the legend, the top 25 all-time greatest player in the NBA. I say top 25. You're recognized top 50, top 75. Rick Barry. Follow him on all social media platforms at Rick24Barry. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads at Dog Wild Rick. Happy Memorial Day. How is your day of freedom? No pun intended. How is it going for you before we get into the Bill Walton stuff, which I know is depressing, but how are you doing, sir?
Well, I'm doing great. Thanks. I thank God every day for the good health that he's blessed me with. And obviously not the case with my dear friend, Bill Walton. But, this day is a special day for me. I'm a big supporter of our military. I mean, this country wouldn't be what it is today without the sacrifices that so many of them made, and the families of all of those who have lost their lives. And then not even, talking about the guys that came back with all of the issues they had and losing arms and legs and the PTS and all the other stuff that is out there. PTD. Anyway, it's a special day to give thanks to that and to to God for the blessings that we have in the country that we have. So thank you, military people. My heart goes out to all of you. My prayers go out to all of you and your families. So the same thing for Laurie Walton and Bill's sons and all of the family members that they have. I can't even imagine what they're going through. I mean, he wasn't that old. I mean, 71, I think he was. But we had a lot of good times together. I had a lot of fun memories. I always remember the first All-Star game I played with him, and we were playing in Atlanta. Okay, I'm known for running the pick and roll play. I mean, I had Nate Thurman, one of the great players and dear friend of mine, who is also gone now, and Clifford Ray, and we ran the hell out of the pick and roll play. And we come back to the huddle after we're doing something, and Bill comes up to me to try to give me a pointer about running the pick and roll play, and I started laughing, and we joked about it all the times, as I said, because we got to be friendly later on, and after retired, and did a lot of things together, bike trips and things from Sausalito to San Diego to raise money for a great cause for some of the people who had all kinds of health issues, and some of them were paralyzed from the legs down, and they're cranking on their machines and going on the little 3-wheelers, and guys with one leg and they have an artificial limb, an artificial hand. I mean, you want to feel blessed. I mean, you go on a tour with those guys and spend the time with them. It makes you feel pretty darn fortunate. And so Bill and I got to do a lot of things. We tried like hell to get some broadcast people let us broadcast together. We talked about what it would be, because I would say, Bill, I would never let you get away with some of the bullshit that you're doing. And he would just laugh, and he said, "Yeah, we got to try." So I've talked to those guys and everything, and they don't want to, whatever. We never got to do that, unfortunately, and now he's no longer around. So my prayers go out again to Lori and the family. So, but amazing guy. It's no telling. It's hard to say just how incredible he would have been had he been fully healthy and didn't have the issues with his ankles. One of the greatest timing jumpers ever. He wasn't the guy to touch the top of the backboard, but his timing was so precise and so good. And one of the great rebounders, and starting a break and getting the ball out off of a rebound, and a great passer, amazing shooter. I mean, that game he had in the NCAA tournament with, what did he go, like 22 for 23, some ridiculous thing that he did. But was a student of the game, understood the game, knew how to play it well. And the stories he told me about when he was with John Wooden and UCLA,
right?
And of course, all the stuff with the Hearst and all the things he was on with the Liberation Army. I mean, he was just a piece of work. God broke the mold when he made Bill Walton. I'll tell you that. But a special person. He had the greatest whirlpool thing that he had. It looked like a tropical forest at his house there in San Diego, and the most powerful jets. I mean, Kel, I go in there and turn into a prune going in that thing. It was crazy. Bill, Bill was. He was something else, a deadhead, with all the crazy stuff that he's just an amazing guy. He was special. He really was. I really enjoyed Bill a lot. And, this is a shocker to me. All of a sudden my son Canyon, who's on the Olympic team for 3x3 basketball, heading over to Paris actually playing the tournament coming up there this weekend. And he sent me something, and my son Scooter sent me something. My son Drew sent me something about it because I was playing pickleball this morning. I came back, was doing some things, and I hadn't looked at my phone. And I said, "Oh man, here's the deal, folks. When you get older, man, you start getting this news all the time with friends and people just passing away. It's like a never-ending story. Very sad indeed. And I mean, come on, I lost two of my teammates, Derek Dickey and Phil Smith. They were in their 40s. Wow. Bill Bridges gone. So it's just it's a crazy thing how life is, and that's why you have to make the most of every day. For those of you who are listening who are younger, you don't live forever. You never know what's going to happen. You need to make the most of every day. If there's people you care about, tell them you care about it. People you love, tell them you love them. Just take advantage of every opportunity you have to enjoy your friends and your family and the things that life has to offer. So I'm done with my preaching, but God.
Preaching? No, you're not preaching. I'm actually glad you're saying that. It's weird to me because I also heard from this I don't mean to name drop here, but in the same way that you heard about this unexpectedly from your sons, I got a text from Mark Jones, one of the voices of ESPN, just letting me know it suddenly happened, and he's coming on the show in a couple days. But what you just said, I didn't realize how relatively young he was, because you two won your championships just 2 years apart, if I'm not mistaken.
But I broadcast that when I was doing the broadcasting when they beat the 76ers and came back and knocked them off. That was a big surprise to people. And but Bill was certainly an integral part of that team's success without question. And the success that he had in college. I mean, he was a special player and a very, very, very unique individual. He was such a piece of work. I actually joke because we were friendly and stuff. So we friends talk. I said, Bill, there's a lot of people that wish you had never got over your stuttering problem. Right. He really had a problem. He stuttered. He couldn't talk.
That's incredible.
He could not carry on a conversation and talk. He really had a major problem. And boy, did he ever overcome that and get the very verbose and an opinion about stuff. I mean, he would just go on eloquently about stuff. I mean, he was special. He was a very special guy.
And if you ever listen, there's a million different montages online. If you go to YouTube and look up Bill Walton, like he would go, like you said, he would go off on these tangents about the most random topics. And sometimes the broadcasters would have to interrupt him to bring his train of thought back to the game, because all of a sudden he's on the verge of talking about World War III or
he is unique. There's no question about that. I mean,
absolutely.
I love being around them. We had so much fun when we go on those bike tours. I mean, he just ride forever because he really couldn't do much because he had the fused ankles and stuff. And so, hell, we just, this run, we went 80 miles or more. Bill would go out and ride some more. In fact, they had masseuses, set up to do it at the hotels where we stayed and do something. And he just wanted to ride somewhere. He said, Rick, you can have my massage. I said, I got it, Bill. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of your massage, the extra minutes that I got. So, yeah, he was special. He really was. And Lori's such a great gal, too. I'm trying. I don't have her phone number. I wish the heck I did, because I would, want to get a hold of her and just, tell her that my prayers are with her, and, just her loss, I'm sure, is going to be very difficult to deal with.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's 71, in my opinion, very young, way too soon to be leaving this earth. And there's also the tie-in with the Golden State Warriors and you as well. You both have children who played. His son ended up being an assistant coach for the Golden State Warriors. Luke Walton was actually filling in for Steve Kerr when they had that 24 game winning streak in I think 2016. And he was always just such a nice guy. I've crossed paths with him a bunch, as most media types do, because he was always at games. You always saw him all over the place. He's so tall.
Trust me, he beat to his own tune, his own drum. Yeah. He did what he felt he had to do. He didn't worry about what people thought. I loved going to events with him because I knew I could always dress casually, because he never really got dressed up when he went to I mean, and so it was great. I didn't have to worry, feel bad. Plus the fact, because of his ankles and things, he used to bring a special chair that he could sit so he could sit up higher. I mean, definitely God broke the mold when Bill Walton was born. There's no other person that I know of that's anything quite like Bill, and he was special.
Absolutely. And just to show how unique of a character he was, I posted a picture of me and him on Threads. If you follow me there, it's at Dog Wild. But the picture we took was at a surf expo. Like, he was also into surfing. It was just out of the blue. All of a sudden, I'm like, Bill? And he sticks out, obviously, how tall he is. It was at this like surf event. And so he was one of a kind. And again, like you said, he didn't reveal to anyone, as far as I know, that he was battling this illness. So it was very surprising. It's unfortunate. We're going to finish up. Any final thoughts on Bill Walton, who, again, sad news today, passed away at the age of 71. We also want to talk about the NBA playoffs and the Golden State Warriors. Stan Van Gundy, I don't know what your thoughts are on him, Rick, but he said something interesting during last night's broadcast, which resulted in the Mavericks taking a 3-0 series lead, pertaining to the most skilled backcourts ever. And he said Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving were the most skilled backcourt in NBA history. A bold take. I pulled up a list of other all-timers in terms of backcourts that we can discuss. A lot more to cover.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion. It doesn't.
Yes, sir. Yes, they are. Let's give some love to we have one sponsor for today's show. It's Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day, everyone. And that is a great sponsor, which helps you with your vehicle. I mean, it's you want to save money wherever you can, and eBay Motors helps you when it comes to car parts. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance: superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, which is really cool, if you got the right part, you slide it into their little checkbox and you'll get that green light indicating the part will fit for your vehicle. And with that Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Are you watching Fox Sports?
Hey, I want to know who counted those parts to get that total.
I didn't write the copy, sir. I don't know, but regardless, if you're watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting, make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And you can follow Hall of Famer, NBA Top 50, in my opinion, Top 25 all-time player Rick Barry on all social media platforms at Rick24Barry. Rick, any final thoughts before we move on from a sad day today, the passing of Bill Walton?
No, just, I mean, he's a special person, and unfortunately he's no longer with us. And so if you've never had an opportunity to kind of watch him play, go out and, look at whoever it is, YouTube or wherever it may be, do your searches and stuff, and watch some of the things that he was able to do. Watch the incredible, as I said, incredible timing that he had. He timed his jump so perfectly, and the way he would start a fast break, and a terrific passer, terrific mid-range shooter. Here's the deal: he never did go out and learn to shoot the three-point shot. It wasn't part of what his time was all about. But I'm sure with his form that he had, I'm sure he probably would have been really good at it. And he was probably as close to a player like the Joker Okay, not as big and as power that, but he could get inside. He had the hook, left hand, the right hand, the mid range. He just didn't have the 3-point shot, but a heck of a passer.
I was going to ask you if there was a comparison there between those two players, because I wasn't old enough to watch Bill Walton play. My knowledge is from YouTube clips and stuff like that. So, but if the foot injuries didn't happen, I mean, he seemed to be so notorious and synonymous with both his feet, not just one but both. You mentioned those fusion operations. Where would he be? Like, what would he have accomplished?
He'd be right up there. He'd be one of the players. He'd be one of the great centers of all time. Somewhere up in the top 5 without question. I mean, no doubt about it. But yeah, he was special. He really was. I mean, I would, let's just say this. I would love, and I've had great, guys, and Nate Thurman was unbelievable. Clifford, I love Clifford and all, but I would have loved to have played with Bill Walton because of his knowledge of the game, and he was the ultimate team player, and he could do so many things.
Yeah, it's a sad day. Against 71 is just so young. Hope the family's doing okay. I want to shift gears to the NBA postseason. The Dallas Mavericks are up 3-0. Draymond Green has been riling a lot of people up. You hear the boo birds in Minnesota because of the arm, the headlock he had on Rudy Gobert earlier this year. He also had some beef on the court with Anthony Edwards. So the Minnesota fans are not particularly keen on Draymond Green, but he's filling in right now. I think he's entertaining as hell. What are your thoughts on Draymond as a broadcaster? Is he entertaining you? I'm very curious to know what your thoughts are on Draymond in terms of his broadcasting skills in these pre and post game shows.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't really waste a lot of my time and have to listen to a lot of the talking heads. And, obviously Draymond has always been opinionated. I know I did see a bunch of stuff and comments. A lot of people are not happy with him.
Right.
But if you're a broadcaster, that's the case. You're going to have that. I mean, if you're doing your job as a broadcaster, especially when you do playoffs, the fans in both cities are going to be mad at you. And I'll tell you why, because they're biased. And so if both sides are mad at you and don't like you and they're booing you or whatever, you're doing your job, because what happens, you're saying good and bad about both teams. And the only thing the fans there at Minnesota hear are the bad things he says about them and the good things he says about the opposition. But he's saying both. And so that's, if you're doing your job properly, the fans don't like you in either city. That's the reality of it, because you're not a homer. You're not working for the team. You're telling the freaking truth. And in my case, when I played, my wife said, honey, you're brutally honest. I love your honesty, but you got to get the brutality out of it. And of course you learn. I think I've gotten better at that. And I'm getting to the point, though, at my age, being an octogenarian, that, I may not really give too much of a rat's ass about what somebody thinks about me anymore. And so people have horrible opinions about me as a person as it is. And that's they're entitled to that opinion. They don't know me. They don't know who I am. The people who know me know who I am, and I know who I am. But yeah, so Draymond's, out there, and that's what they love, that stuff. The people, the network, they love entertaining. They love people who are controversial. That's why, Charles was lucky. If Charles had been broadcasting back in my time, he would have been suffering the same bullshit that I suffered, because I was honest and forthcoming. Charles says it, and everybody, oh, that's Charles, and it's everything, and it's okay. When I said it, I was, oh God, he's so he's so negative when he's talking and everything. No, I was truthful.
And just to counter that a little bit, Rick, I do think it took a while for Charles to earn the grace that he has now, where he can get away with almost anything. With almost anything. I mean, I don't know anyone else on this planet who can say what he says and just get away scot-free. But I don't know if he had that freedom early in his career. Maybe he did. I don't know. But
he wouldn't have kept his job if he didn't have the freedom, because that's one of the reasons they said they got rid of me, because I was too negative. No, I was too truthful. I mean, like I said, I always feel like Jack Nicholson, in the courtroom saying, you can't handle the truth. I mean, with Tom Cruise.
And that's why on the Rick Barry Show, right in the open of your program, we play that soundbite. And I personally have nothing but respect for honesty. So I'm sorry if you've unfortunately been punished for being.
But let me tell you, it's okay. It doesn't matter in the scheme of things here. The biggest thing is I'm blessed with God with good health, and I've got a great family and all the other stuff and friends, and that's all. That's what really matters in life. But here's the thing: the playoffs have been so bizarre this season. Okay,
yeah, they have.
I mean, seriously, the prior rounds before this final stuff, I've never seen so many freaking blowouts in playoff games. I'm talking about I mean, come on, one team was down by 50 points in a freaking playoff game. 50 points and lost by 45. And then teams got 17-point leads. The Nuggets in the game 7 at home have a 22-point lead in the third quarter and lose. How the hell has that happened? I mean, so crazy stuff. Now, all of a sudden, you've got these crazy things, and it looks like both of them are going to sweep. I don't know if it's ever happened before that in the finals of each conference, there's a sweep by each team. I will be surprised if Dallas doesn't sweep, and I'll be totally shocked if Boston doesn't, because Boston, I mean, they don't even have, the Pacers don't even have their best player.
Right. Yeah, they're done. Yeah, it seems safe to say it's going to be Mavericks, Celtics. Would it be safe to say as well? I feel like this Western Conference Finals, Rick, is a reminder of how difficult it is to win a championship, right? I mean, most of the all-time greats, Jordan, LeBron. I mean, I can't. How old were you when you won your title? You were in your 30s, right?
That was in 75. So in 75, I was 30. What was I? 31, I guess, in 75.
Yeah, but you made the finals years before that, and the point is that you rarely see individual players who achieve these stratospheres of greatness actually win the championship right away. It's not easy. And with Anthony Edwards,
some never have.
yeah. And with Anthony Edwards, though, it's like I feel like he's learning the hard way that, you know, there are 4 rounds. He's never gone this deep in the playoffs. He's never won a playoff series until this postseason. What are your thoughts on Anthony Edwards? Because I think this kid could be really special, but I think also at the age of 22, he's learning the hard way that winning a championship just is not easy.
Yeah, and again, I mean, he hasn't played particularly well in a lot of the games and shot the ball well, and a lot's expected of him. And hopefully he'll get through that and learn from this experience. I know that what I learned most in my experience, I was in my second year in the league, so I was 23 years old. And we lost a really good, tough series against the great 76ers team back then with Wilt Chamberlain and Luke Jackson and Billy Cunningham and Hal Greer and I mean Larry Costello and just a bunch of unbelievable Wally Jones. I mean, crazy guys today. Matty Gukas. Anyway, what I learned is that you can't allow yourself to get so emotionally worked up about it and wanting to play so hard, because that burns energy. Mm-hmm. It takes energy away from you, and you got to be careful about that. And so I learned that, and I think that helped me a great deal. And we came so close. I mean, 2 pick and roll plays went their way with Wilt Chamberlain and Nate Thurman and myself involved. Had it gone our way, we could have won in 6 games. It was that close. But it was a great learning experience, and that's what life's all about. You're not lucky to be somebody to come out like Jamal Wilkes, who had all the great success, in college and winning all those championships at UCLA, and then he comes in as a rookie and he gets to be Rookie of the Year and he gets to win a championship in his freaking rookie year. I mean, that's you're so fortunate when something like that happens to you, and I'm sure Jamal could talk about it as well. He was just really lucky. A lot of people aren't that lucky. A lot of guys get on teams and God, it takes them a while to even get into the playoffs. And then it takes a while to be able to get past the first round. And then it just gets even a little bit more difficult and more difficult. And so you learn what you have to do. You learn through the mistakes that you make. And hopefully Edwards will. The guy is like stupid athletic. I mean, you see that dunk he had. His head is at the rim. I mean, he's unbelievable. And hopefully he's not going to get hurt, because, I mean, you got to be careful when you get up that high. I mean, just slightest little touch or something, you can come down the wrong way. God only knows what might happen. And hopefully that won't. But I've seen him do a couple of things like that. But again, what I see from him is the same thing that most young players, the same thing that happened to Tatum and to Brown, who I think are learning a little bit. You have a tendency to not let the game just come to you. Mm-hmm. You take what the defense gives you. And a lot of times they're trying to do too much, and they get turnovers, and they don't play as good a game and as intelligent a game of basketball as you should play because of the lack of the experience. And I think that's kind of happened to him a little bit, really tough shooting nights, which happens. Hell, I experienced that in 75. I mean, game 7, 2 for 14, I think I was in the third quarter of the game. But you have to learn to overcome that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And hopefully he'll learn. But he's certainly very exciting. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, all of a sudden, I mean, his shooting went south. He was a pretty good 3-point shooter, shooting unbelievably well, and all of a sudden he can't put it in the ocean. So,
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one question I was gonna ask you. at least the pre and post game crew, Draymond included, with Chuck and Shaq and Kenny and Ernie, they've been very critical, and I think rightfully so. But I'm curious to know what your thoughts are in regards to Karl Anthony Towns not using his size advantage. He's settling for a lot of those shots. The shot's not going in, yet here's a guy who's 7 feet who can easily, back his way down to the basket, and he's not doing that. Like, do you agree that? And this has been where Draymond Green got some criticism because he called Karl Anthony Towns soft. That this has been his reputation, that in these big moments he folds. What are your thoughts on Karl Anthony Towns in this postseason, or more specifically this series?
I don't necessarily think that he folded and stuff. I think what it is that he needed to do something different. If you're struggling, drive, get to the basket, get inside,
Right.
Get to the free throw line, get something else to get your confidence back and put it in. But you can't stop shooting when you're open. You got to still take the shots. Those are your shots. They happen. You have to do it. Your teammates are expecting it. But yes, you still have to change a little bit. I always was wondering why in the world 2 players that I thought should have developed much better inside games. I mean, one of them was like amazing, is obviously LeBron James, and the stuff that he's done. His career is incredible. But why, with his size and all, because he wasn't a great free throw shooter, he never really took advantage of being a post-up guy. With his size and some of the matchups he had, he would have kept people's lunch. But he really didn't want to get to the free throw line. In fact, I think he holds a record for some of the worst free throw shooting in the last 2 minutes of games before what happened. He's gotten better with his outside shot. He had horrible form early in his career, terrible three-point shooter. He's gotten to be very respectable in that area, but he's never been an 80% free throw shooter. But somebody with that size, and the other guy is Dirk Nowitzki, who is 7 feet tall, who hardly ever did anything in the post.
Correct.
I just don't understand why you wouldn't want to have a well-rounded game to take advantage of the opportunities that are there to present themselves. And those are 2 guys that always jump out at me as guys that never really developed the inside game. And Dirk is a great free throw shooter on top of it. I mean, I could see LeBron, he struggled stuff from the line. But Dirk, why didn't he do it? And hey, great player, was on a championship team, amazing, one of the best foreign players ever to play in the NBA, but never developed that inside game. So that always is very interesting to me to see how someone doesn't want to be a great all-around player.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. If you're blessed with those skills and that athleticism, why not take advantage of it? I'm 100% with you. Draymond Green a week or so ago brought up the fact that there is a massive double standard in the NBA in terms of how he's treated versus others. Case in point, Jamal Murray threw that heating pack on the court. And look, $100,000 fine is huge, but he was not suspended. And Draymond was saying they would have kicked him out for the entire postseason. I'm seeing another double standard-ish potential scenario here in regards to Daniel Gafford, the center for the Mavericks, who's playing incredible basketball. From my perspective, he's a difference maker out there. The Timberwolves are struggling containing his energy, his force, but he's very physical. There's a lot of plays where I feel like if Gafford was Draymond or another Warriors player, and this has been a gripe of the Warriors for years now, that they don't feel like that's at least Stephen Curry especially, but the Warriors in general don't get that superstar treatment. They don't get that dynasty treatment. They don't even get fair treatment. And that's why I brought up some stats pertaining to their free throw shooting this past regular season. But I'm curious to know, just from your observation skills, what you've seen so far, do you agree with that sentiment? Like, do you think the Warriors are treated unfairly, whereas someone like Daniel Gafford is just, there's so much contact going on down there. He's so physical. Is there a double standard, or do you think this is being called fairly?
It's what they call playoff basketball. They let guys get away with this crap. What skill does it take to push and shove and hold and be physical? It's the thing that I have said for decades when Adam Silver, God rest his soul, not Adam Silver, but David Stern was alive. And then same with talking to Adam Silver. I ask him, why do you allow the game to get so physical in the playoffs? Because you're giving an advantage to the less skilled player. I can't stand it. Guys are killing each other in there. Hell, they had a scrum. It looked like they were playing freaking rugby or something just in that game the last time. The ball, they're diving, people are going, and Luka Doncic is diving on people. No whistle, no whistle. I said, what the hell is going on? Just blow your whistle, because players will adjust to what you're doing. Call the game from the tip-off to the final whistle or the final horn exactly the same way for the entire time. Don't let stuff not go early and then let it go late. athlete or vice versa. It drives me absolutely insane. I can't even stand it when I see that. And a lot of times you see two guys, they crash into one another, something happened. The whistle doesn't even blow. Hey, it's got to be a block or a foul. I'm sorry. It should have blown the whistle. But it's like they don't want a lot of free throws. They want to let them play. Okay, let them play. Well, that's not playing. That's mugging. I mean, shit, if you did some of the stuff that they're doing on the street, you can get arrested. I mean, I just hate that stuff. I really do. But I agree that young kid from the Mavs is, he's, and they're throwing the lob passes. He's dunking everything. He's mobile and quick. He's been a factor for them without question. I mean, obviously you got the backcourt, that's pretty good. Kyrie and Luka, they're really tremendous players. They do so much on their own. And fortunately for them, they're on their game. But again, if Minnesota was playing their game and their players played the way they're capable of playing, they're not playing well, some of their key guys. And so the difference is those guys then they're getting away with it because it's a lot of one-on-one crap, okay? But they're being successful because they're capable of doing. In fact, I just saw something that was really interesting. JJ Redick, who's a bright guy, he was talking to LeBron James and talking about these stats about coming down and shooting transition threes. I've always talked about it. I think that's the best time in the world to shoot a three-point shot.
Absolutely.
When I coach my team, you come down in transition and you're 3-on-3. If you don't have an easy layup, shoot the three-point shot. You got a better chance of getting the offensive rebound. And they're shooting like 50-something, over 50% doing that. Whereas the one-on-one stuff it's up this year, I guess, compared to the past. It's like 35% only. So that's a great way to do it. I mean, but the thing about it is that, my God, I mean, let them play. I mean, but I don't like it. I mean, they've got away with it. They're great players. They're happen to play really super, shooting it great. But if they weren't playing at that high level, and if Minnesota even was playing reasonably well, which they're not, they've still been in some of those games.
Yes, they have.
So, I mean,
they've been close.
That's the whole point, is that one-on-one stuff. It's great if it's working. The same with the Warriors when KD was here. When the Warriors got in trouble, a lot of times they would revert from their Warrior style pass, move, cut, 4, 5, 6 passes, get easy baskets, make the defense make decisions, and play fun basketball to watch, fun basketball to play. And occasionally, because of KD and his great talent, they would get stuck. He would go and dig the ball, and he'd do a lot of stuff, and they wouldn't play that Warrior style. But if he was on, it was great.
Absolutely.
But if he wasn't on, they got in trouble. And so what's happening with Dallas, those guys are playing great. And so they're getting away with it because of the fact that the Minnesota guys aren't playing their game.
And these stats, real fast, from the recent Warriors season, and maybe some of this you folks already know, but the Warriors were 27th out of 30 teams in free throw attempts this year. They were 28th in terms of their percentage of points coming from free throws. They were 24th in free throws made. They were 22nd in personal fouls called out of 30 teams. They were 29th out of 30 teams in terms of a stat called free throw attempt rate, which measures a team's ability to get to the free throw line. So they were 29th out of 30 teams there. A few other stats I found while researching some advanced metrics: 28th out of 30 teams in fast break points. That was shocking to me, Rick. The fast break, pushing the ball, that used to be an identity for the Warriors, but they were not good in that stat this past year. They were 20th out of 30 teams in points in the paint. They were 30th out of 30 teams until Kuminga started getting minutes. That was his impact. 26th in terms of percentage of points in the paint. And last stat, they were second in terms of percentage of points from the 3-point line. And so I guess, Rick, what I'm asking you is, based off those stats, is it because they're a 3-point shooting team, in your opinion? Is that why they shoot? They're
a perimeter team. Kuminga go to the basket and all. That's why you have to have a well-balanced attack. The greatest way to play is, I love the transition three. I think those stats prove it out, the analytics and what have you. But inside out, as opposed to outside maybe in. Okay, you got to go. You got to get to the line. Those are free shots. And Warriors have some great free throw shooters. Obviously Klay and Steph are great free throw shooters. When they had KD, he was a great free throw shooter. But Warriors have to get a more well-balanced attack for next season. Those stats, I think validate that. I mean, without question. And here's the thing. I mean, they're second in three-pointers because they have some great three-point shooters. Yeah, but you can't just be a three-point shooting team and expect to win and win a championship. You've got to have some balance there. And, the Celtics sometimes can get in trouble with that, but they do a job of getting to the basket because both Brown and Tatum, will work hard about getting to the basket and doing that. And they also live and die sometimes with the 3-point shot because they take a lot of 3-pointers as well. So it's a fine balance, and you just have to be smart. If the 3 isn't working, then go do something else. And here's the thing. The Warriors, again, we talk about defense. You got to be a hell of a rebound and play tough defense, get some steals, which will generate the 3-point opportunities in transition to give you those chances to shoot a higher percentage for your 3-point shooting and get to the dang basket. That's the one thing about Kuminga. He would attack and he would go to the basket. He was aggressive doing that, more so probably than anybody else, on the team.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that specific topic because it reminded me of something I've been wanting to bring up, which is a Steve Kerr attribution. I think Monty Poole of NBC Sports Bay Area printed this. I couldn't find the broadcast of it, so otherwise I'd play the clip. But Steve Kerr made a reference to the fact that the emphasis on the Warriors to crash the boards, and it's really wild that they were the number 1 team in the NBA in rebounding. But Steve Kerr thinks, in hindsight, their emphasis on offensive rebounding cost them in terms of transition defense. And he said that was something he reflected on. My response to that is, why did it take you a whole year to kind of figure that out? Your thoughts on Kerr's attribution there regarding offensive rebounding and that costing them with transition D?
Well, obviously, like you say, it took them a little bit too long to figure that out. I mean, but the analytical stuff is so prevalent nowadays, and so that statistic should have been something that came up, I would think, much earlier in the season, and just even watching it. But the whole thing, the emphasis is you don't want to not try to get offensive rebounds, but your team has to understand the balance to be back. It's like I say, 3 critical elements for teams: limit the other team's easy layup baskets. Don't let them get easy, uncontested shots and layups and things. Okay. Control the defensive board so they don't get extra points on second chance opportunities, and minimize the number of points they get in transition. So if you focus on those 3 things defensively, you're going to keep yourself in most every game. And then it's a matter of how you're executing offensively. And the same thing, we talked about it. The Warriors lost the championship to Cleveland when Draymond got suspended, which was just worst decision I've ever seen the NBA make on something, because LeBron should have been called for a freaking flagrant foul for what he did to him. And that would have negated all of that crap. And then to suspend him in a freaking championship. Are you kidding me? Come on. For what he did, that was ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. Now, but they lost because they lived and died with the 3-point shot.
Agreed.
The last 4 minutes and 20 seconds of that game may have been the worst offense ever in the history of the NBA in a Game 7 championship. Agreed. One basket was made. One. Yeah. And that was a 3-point shot by Kyrie Irving and 1 of 2 free throws by LeBron James. The Warriors, other than the block that LeBron made on Iggy going to the basket on that fast break opportunity, was a huge game-saving thing for them. But all of the 3-point shots, they're at home playing in the game. Go to the basket. Drive. Get to the free throw line. It was all 3-point shooting.
Yeah, I'm sure Andre Iguodala would object to by saying, "Well, I did try, but then LeBron blocked me." But that sequence that depresses me to no end. Let's finish up the show. My apologies to Locked On for running late today, but we have a lot of good stuff we're talking about here today. Stan Van Gundy, just to finish up on that thought, he said last night, I thought it was an eye opener when he said it, that the backcourt of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving is the most skilled in NBA history. My guess is Dub Nation, like myself, kind of took a step back when they heard that, because that's a clear slight to the Splash Brothers, Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. I looked up some other duos that might be in the mix here. And again, it's important to note that he said most skilled, right? And not necessarily just the best ever. He said they're the most skilled. Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars comes to mind. Jerry West and Gail Goodrich comes to mind. Magic Johnson and Byron Scott, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Walt Frazier, Earl Monroe, even Michael Jordan and Ron Harper. I thought that was a grossly underrated backcourt. And more recently, we had Chris Paul and James Harden. But to me, there's no contest. The Splash Brothers, 4 championships. It takes skill to win at that clip. Your thoughts, sir, on Stan Van Gundy's comments in last night's game?
Well, it depends upon what he's saying most skilled in what regard. I would have to say, in comparing them to the Splash Brothers, which of course we're talking about Warriors here, they're not better shooters than both of those guys. Okay. However, both of them are, I think, much more adept at being able to create and get their own shots and do stuff, because that's not Klay's specialty. Steph can do that. That's not Klay. He improved and he got better at doing stuff. But from the standpoint, and I think what Stan was talking about, the ability to go and get a shot and create some opportunities and get to the basket at times and be able to pass the ball to people, they're pretty damn good. I mean, they're right up there with one of the best ever. But I would have to say, I would have to agree with them as far as offensively, okay? They probably are a little bit better than Steph and Klay as being able to create their own shots almost at any time that they really want. They're pretty damn good. They really are. Yeah. But to say they're the best ever all around, that'd be difficult, but they're up there. I mean, they are certainly in the conversation, and they are better than some of the guys that you mentioned as far as terrific duos. But if you were just talking about shooting from outside, you got to go with the Splash Brothers. But if you're talking about the ability to get to the ball, I mean, come on, Kyrie does some pretty amazing stuff to be able to get a shot. He can shoot the three as well. And, same thing with Luka. Luka's pretty amazing at getting his shots, and he's got size, and he goes in, he uses his body. He can get in close. He'll score there. They're pretty special. They really are.
They are. Oh, to finish up real fast here, if you're Chris Finch, if you're the head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, are you doing something different? Are you looking at Minnesota's defense and thinking to yourself that they could scheme better than this? Because I'm seeing a lot of one-on-one matchups with Kyrie and
Luka. I think
Luka.
Udonis Haslem had something to say. First time I've seen Udonis on there, who had great career with the Heat and all
on ESPN today, right?
Yes, and I thought he came up with, and I thought he made a very valid and really good point. They were going to double sometimes and all, but their doubles, like he said, it was a passive double. It wasn't an aggressive double to get the ball. You want to get the ball, right? Get the damn ball out of, Luka's hands. Yeah. And he's so smart and adept. I mean, come on, trap him. I mean, make him give the damn ball up and turn his back to the basket and stuff. And if you just do it like he'll pick you apart, which he did. Which he obviously did. And then when they lost the one game, when he made the three, at the end of the one game, how in the hell do you have your 7-foot defensive center, guarding him on the perimeter? That should have been, they should have immediately jumped him and make somebody else beat you other than him. You don't leave Kyrie. Hey, if somebody else can be the hero, great, but you don't let Luka be the guy. I mean, come on, that's stupid. Absolutely insane that they did, that they allowed that to happen.
And I think Haslam was using a term, if I saw the same thing you did, like a soft trap. Yeah, he was basically alluding to the fact that the doubles were worthless because he wasn't getting the ball out of his hands, and he was still ending up in one-on-one matchups. It was worthless.
If you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna trap and do something, you damn sure better do it and get the ball out of the guy's hands.
Absolutely, Rick. It was an absolute pleasure. Oh, real fast, Greg Gordon asked the question in the chat: who wins, Celtics or Mavericks? If that's what ends up happening for the NBA Finals.
Well, if those two guys play at the level that they're playing right now, it could be anybody's matchup. I mean, and they're playing with great confidence. I think that I haven't been overly impressed with what the Celtics have done against the Pacers. I've been really impressed with what the Mavs have done against Minnesota, much more so than I am of what the Celtics are doing. So that should be very, very interesting to see what happens. But again, both of those guys, Kyrie and Luka, are playing at an extremely high level right now. Can they maintain that for the next series to be able to get it done? But the Celtics show you they still have their, if they're not making those threes and doing stuff, they have a tendency. And I'm really waiting to see what happens when the stage is there. It's the biggest stage ever for especially Tatum and Brown, especially Tatum, who has not put up a lot of great numbers in situations that he's been in come playoff time, to see if he can play at the level that he's capable of playing at, whether he can do that and sustain it for a series against a Dallas team that is playing the best basketball they've played all season long.
Absolutely. Rick, it's such a bummer that the Warriors were not involved in this postseason. With that said, the first and second rounds to me were like they reminded me of some of these all-time great series. I've been thoroughly entertained. I have no issue with the letdown round like the conference finals we have right now. Are you as entertained as I am, Rick? At least with the first two rounds. I know this has been a bit of a letdown, the conference finals, but
I love close games to see what happens, to see Luka doing what he did, and to see the guys come through when it really means something. but I was flabbergasted, to be honest with you, to use an old time term that most young people don't know, to see what happened. Right. Seriously, to see what happened in so many games with blowouts like that. That's just hard for me to believe. Yeah,
it is, absolutely. And I'm looking forward to the finals. I always look forward to talking to you, sir. Rest in peace to Bill Walton. That was very sad news today. Any final thoughts, sir, as we wrap it up?
No, I just, let's hope that the next series and the championship series are really close, competitive games, no big blowouts. And let's see what these great players are able to do when it's all on the line. That's what's fun about sports.
Absolutely. And are those games in Paris that your son's competing in, the 3-on-3s? Is that televised?
Yeah, well, no, they actually stream them on YouTube. Has the games when he's playing in these tournaments. They're in Paris, then they're going to freaking Mongolia again, and they got some
Mongolia.
Yeah, they were there last year. They were there last year as well. And but one of their guys is not feeling right. Maddox has got a little calf thing, so he's resting some right now. So they're playing in these events, getting ready, and I'm hoping that the NBC will hook them up a little bit because they have a few days off, and then they want to try to go and see a little bit of the French Open and try to get a way to get into the French Open. So maybe NBC, since it's the Olympics are broadcast by NBC and they're broadcasting the French Open in tennis, maybe they can help get Canyon and his teammates, Jimmer for that. And their guys get them in to see a tennis match over there for this tournament.
Beautiful. Rick, always a pleasure, sir. Again, people can follow you on all social media platforms. The same handle, no matter what the platform is, at Rick24Berry. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads at Dog Wild. And the Rick Barry Show, download the Mic'd Up app.
One thing, I'm happy because I'm really happy because we got a really good big for my big three team with Leandro Barbosa and Jody Meeks, right? And it was. I'm really happy. Larry Sanders, we were able to pick him up. He was on one of the championship teams, 7-footer. It's great. And we've got Dwan Summers. I mean, I have a team that I think can be competitive and hopefully be a playoff team. Everybody stay healthy. Great guys. Want to win. So I'm looking forward to the big thing. We'll be there. Our first game is in Oakland on June 15th.
Yeah, we'll bring you back on to promote that for sure. We'll definitely pump that up and hype it up. And you're referring to the big three. You're the head coach of the Ball Hogs. Leandro Barbosa, former Warriors player, legend, is one of your players on that roster. And again, if people follow you on Instagram, they see this phenomenal photo of you two having that endearing moment, coach and player. So follow Rick on Instagram and all other social media platforms, again, at Rick24Berry. Happy Memorial Day, everyone. Apologies again if we're going long today. I know we went late, but I hope the content was worth it. Rick, always a pleasure, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, everyone. And we'll be back at this soon. Bye-bye.